Well, here we are, home for the next 3 days. As you can see, we're camped beneath some giant sugar pine and, of course, a sequoia tree. So this is a short video of Upper Yosemite Falls, a sort of preview of coming attractions. On day 3, we plan to climb to the top. On our way up to the Lower Yosemite Falls site, we noticed a cemetery and stopped to take some pictures.
Well, here it is, Lower Yosemite Falls. It's about a 10-minute hike. As you can see, 10 minutes worth of work. It's quite rewarding.
In remembrance of John Muir, this plaque was put up along the course of Yosemite Creek in 1924. This was the very site where he built his cabin when he lived in the valley in 1869. Okay, so this is the end of day 1. To recap, we visited Lower Yosemite Falls, and as the pictures show, we visited the cemetery. I didn't find anybody of any notable interest, no names that I'd heard of, but I did think that the cemetery was very interesting. Another interesting thing about our camping experience here is that we actually have to keep the food locked up in a bear locker. You can't keep it locked up in the car because the bears will actually tear the doors off of the car. We were actually kind of nervous about this at first, but it turns out that the bears don't come within arm's reach of anyone. Okay, so we're at the trailhead to Mariposa Grove, and as you can see, the main attraction to Yosemite National Park. I believe that the biological name for these trees are Sequoia dendron giganteum. So if you look on the map here, we're camped here in Yosemite Valley, and we had to drive about 1.25 hours south down Wawona Road to Wawona, and about 2 miles from Wawona is the trailhead to Mariposa Grove. Okay, so I'm standing underneath a giant fallen sequoia. As you can see, its root structure is quite dense. It's quite interesting. I'm not sure why this sequoia fell. One thing about this park is that there are frequent fires here in Yosemite, and as you walk through here, you'll see several trees that have been burnt. So these here are sequoia pine cones. And this one is a freshly fallen pine cone. And what happens is eventually when it gets warm, it gets wet, and then it gets warm, and then it opens up and it releases its seeds. And once that's happened, it looks like this. So here is an example of a fallen burnt tree. This one actually looks like it was previously cut and then burnt in a forest fire. But again, you can see that fires are common here in Yosemite. So this plaque was placed on a cutout section of a burnt down sequoia tree. And it looks like what they did was put some chemical on it to preserve it. So I'm just going to take a second to read this. Stories of a sequoia's life are hidden beneath the bark. By analyzing core samples and tree rings, a scientist can study climate history, fire ecology, and age of a tree. Imagine the global changes that you have seen in your lifetime. Now consider the transform that occurs in a giant sequoia's over 500 years passed while this tree matured. After falling decades ago, we can now begin to learn more from its core. Notice the brilliant red color that comes from the tree's high concentration of tannic acid. Do you see any tree rings? Each ring represents one season's growth. The light-colored wood in each ring was produced during the first part of each growing season, while the dark-colored wood signifies end of season growth. The width between the rings can indicate how wet, wide, or dry, narrow a season was. We can continue to learn from the trees even after they topple over. So here's a great plaque that explains the humble beginnings of a giant sequoia tree. It's got this really cool metallic molded pine cone attached to it that I really want to steal, but I won't because I'm good. Anyway, so I'm just going to take a second to read this as well. A single sequoia is home to thousands of egg-sized cones sealed tightly within. Tiny seeds need help in getting their start. Sequoias rely on the natural processes of fire to provide a birthplace for the next tree. And I just wanted to go over that because I mentioned earlier that the fires are actually really great for the forest. So this tree is estimated to be about 1,800 years old. The branch over to the right that's angling upward toward the sky is 7 feet in diameter. It's larger than the trunks of any of the trees around here, except of course the tree which it's on. If you notice, the tree is broken off at the top, and it's because fires at the base kill all of the bark, which prevent it from getting nutrients up to the top, and so the top dies and falls off. And here's me standing next to it. So this is one of the famous tunnel trees in Mariposa Grove. Before Mariposa Grove's inclusion to the national park, it served to promote the attractions of the park. If you look, you can actually see that the tree's bark has grown inward, and the tree is continuing to heal to this day. Although the tree is weakened, it did amazingly survive. And this is just to give you an idea of what it's like to stand next to one of these giants. So, this looks like one tree at the bottom, but it's very deceptive because if you look up, you can see that the tree has fused with another tree. And what allows this to happen is that the root structures of the tree will actually join at the bottom, which is very advantageous because it allows the tree to gather more nutrients than it could before. So this is clothespin tree. As you can see, it sort of looks like a clothespin at the bottom.
There was no recording at the end of day 2 because the hike through Mariposa Grove took up most of the day, so there wasn't much to talk about.
Alright, so it's 7:30 a.m., day 3. Haven't had any bear sightings, so that's a good thing. I just wanted to go over really quickly how we've been cooking our meals. As you can see, there are pine needles everywhere. And the camp store actually sells wood for about $8 a box, and that wood does not burn. So we have been using pine needles, and they've actually been working really great. Right now, we're boiling water for coffee, put in a French press. Alright, so about 10 minutes later, the water is now boiling over. It's putting out our fire, and we are getting the French press ready. And so how this thing works is you take coffee and you throw it in this little canister here, and you take this and it goes at the very top like that, and you put the water in, mix it with the coffee, and then you push it down, and yeah, that's how the coffee's made. So that's how we make coffee in the wilderness. Alright, day 3, last adventure of Yosemite National Park. We're going to try and see if we can make it to the top of Upper Yosemite Falls. Alright, halfway up and we're still alive, so I think we're going to keep going.
So just to give you some context of what I mean by we're still alive, the trail takes you up 3,000 feet in 3 miles. And since I'm not accustomed to that kind of thing, what I didn't reveal in the video was that I was already very tired.
Well, we made it. Here's the top. As you can see, if you look out over here, the view is quite stunning. We haven't even seen half of what Yosemite has to offer, but we sure have seen plenty.